Well, one more time. Sorry. Just a little bit back. There we go. And over here. There we go.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Pedro here. Welcome to another episode of Tattoos and Wine with Pedro, episode number 6, numero 6. Today's special guest is Bruja. She is a traveling tattoo artist who specializes in fine black and gray ink and sacred geometry. Her Instagram is Bruja Delbloque. Very cool ass person. Everybody, here's Bruja. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. You look so pretty.
Oh, thank you. And you're pouring me a glass of wine.
I am.
Okay. And I like how we're matching. Cheers. I'm really digging the overall vibe.
Thank you.
We obviously were on the same frequency.
Any tattoos you want to show us? I know you have, but the audience doesn't.
I mean, the legs ones, I got pantyhose on today, so it's gonna be a little bit scarce, but I have my 777 that you can see up here. I got this one when I was in New Mexico by Big Sleeps.
You didn't get that in New York?
No, this is when I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, working at tattoo convention. But I got it done by this really well-known artist. He's from Mexico. His name is Big Sleeps. I believe he's from Mexico. I could be wrong, but when I was in Mexico, that's where he tattooed me. I have this design here. It's like a little wrist cuff. This was done by my friend Eli when I first started learning how to tattoo when I was apprenticing in Brooklyn. This is like one of my favorite tattoos and one of the ones I get complimented on a lot. This one was done at No Idols Tattoo. They were originally around Canal Street, around Bowery, but I think they just changed their street location because they moved. Yeah, I just kind of have them like here and there over here. Some of them are old, some of them are new. I'm still in the process of getting more stuff. I kind of have some in hidden places, but these are my visible ones for the moment.
Which was your first one?
That one's on my thigh.
Oh.
That was like one of those tattoos you get when you're like 14 years old and you don't want your parents to find out, so you just get it next to your coochie. I got like a little gypsy head. Probably have some of it peeking out, but it was like a little traditional gypsy head girl, and it had my parents' names like above it in Arabic. I got that when I was like 14 years old because I just wanted to get tattooed. Yeah.
I was 18.
I went to like a hood shop. I don't recommend to anyone getting a tattoo at 14. I went because I just wanted to be grown, and I told my mom, hey, I'm gonna go do this, and my mom said, you better fucking not. And I said, well, if you don't take me, I'm just gonna do it in someone's basement, so take me. So I found like the only shop on Fordham Road in the Bronx that would do it, and yeah, I paid $120 and
Wow.
I got my tattoo. At 14 years old, so.
My last girl, she also had a throat tattoo. I'm seeing the throat on yours. What made you want to get it on the throat? Neck.
I mean, it's both. Both are politically correct. I don't know. I always kind of liked how like indigenous tattoos looked on women. So like you see like a lot of tribes or like indigenous communities, like they have like these neck adornments or chest adornments, and it looks so beautiful and feminine, but it didn't look like it took away from like their womanhood. So I kind of liked having that aesthetic, but in a modern day sense. So I was like, I really like how they wear these markings. So I just said, you know what? I'm not particularly knowledgeable in this indigenous tradition because I was looking at a bunch of different cultures that do different types of like designs. And I just said, you know what? Let me create my own kind of ornamental work. So I worked with my friend Kwang, and we, you know, discussed it over. We talked about some design organization patterns, and then he designed it for me, and then he tattooed it. But I'm all into like ornamental, tribal kind of stuff.
I'm gonna ask you the same thing I asked her. You don't care if people judge you on it? Like, what the hell is this girl thinking?
People gonna judge you no matter what. People gonna judge you for the people you date. People gonna judge you for the clothes you wear. People gonna judge you for how you talk. At the end of the day, it's about how you judge yourself. And I like my tattoos, as you would probably like your own tattoos, I'm assuming. If you accept yourself, that's all that matters.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you tattoo yourself, which is pretty awesome. How long have you been tattooing for?
5 years. So when I first started, I wasn't necessarily tattooing skin yet. I was doing an apprenticeship like for maybe about a year and a half. And as time progressed on, I started translating my work onto skin. So before I was using like bananas and like fake skin and all that stuff, but it wasn't until maybe like my 3rd or 4th year tattooing that I actually started marketing it as my career, and that was my only bread and butter.
Did you do pigskin?
That was the only thing I didn't try. But I did oranges, I did bananas, I did fake skin. I did most of the conventional stuff that cheap people of color do. I'm a person of color, and I'm not gonna lie, I get cheap sometimes with the stuff that I wanted to buy. That fake skin was like $30, $40 a slice, and it didn't even take skin the same way. I'm like, I'm either tattooing myself or I'm tattooing a banana, because I can't be spending that much. And I'm over here still trying to be able to afford my bounty and my bibs and my saran wrap and my ink. So, but you know.
Yeah, this wine is strong. Which tattoo was your most painful, you would say? If I were to take a guess, is it the elbow or no?
No.
It's not the elbow.
My back.
Not the neck?
No. My back and my palm. But the thing is that my back, I did it when I was in Hawaii. So it was like tap. So it was actually tatau, which is like the Samoan style tattooing with the indigenous instruments.
It's not called tabori?
No, that's in Japan.
Oh.
Japan is tabori. In Philippine culture, it's kalinga. And then in Polynesian culture, it's tatau.
These are all the same thing, just different names.
Well, it's the art of tattooing integrated into those indigenous customs pertaining to where they come from on a geographic scale. So it's, in a sense, indigenous tattooing depending on what country or what land origin.
What do you have on your back?
It's a design that was made by Primo, the artist, and it's basically one of the custom designs that he makes. So his consultation process is like so cool. It's basically almost like a spiritual consultation where he asks you questions about like your journey in life. He'll ask you things like, what are things that you feel like you need to work on in life? What is the relationship with your parents? How many siblings you have? And based on what you answer, what you give him, he creates these designs that are intuitively based to assist you in your journey throughout life. So it's almost like the idea of magic tattoos, which kind of almost in a way inspired my trade, because I got so inspired by getting tattooed by him that I feel like, wow, he gave me like a really powerful thing. I would want to give that to other people.
What's the design of that?
It's just Polynesian symbols.
Oh.
So it's Polynesian, so it's like all the symbols themselves are from like that area of Hawaii or like Maui or like those little islands. But the symbols themselves are integrated into those indigenous archetypes. So all the symbols themselves have a specific meaning, but he paints them all to make one picture. So from what he explained to me, my design is for protection. So he was explaining like my back, because I picked that placement, it's an intuitive placement. So he said it's Hanu, and Hanu is basically a word for turtle. And he said this design is for protection on your journey to finding enlightenment and self-realization. So he made the design to basically represent, I guess, the manifestation of protection using Polynesian symbols. And because of the placement, it's on my back, so it's like warding off.
To do?
About 4 hours. Tap, tap, tap. And
That was your most painful?
It's the most painful because like the best way to describe it is you have to have a strong mind to separate from your physical body what's happening. Like it's the same thing as like a regular tattoo machine, but the only thing is that it's a little bit more abrasive because the actual force that they have to tap into it in order to get the skin to take the ink. And even after I absorbed the ink, you can see bruising behind my tattoo because of the force that was used to tap it. Yeah, literally. Like, and it was crazy because the day I got it, I had a nightmare after getting it of like me fucking like getting whipped and shit. Like it was so crazy. I had like dreams for like maybe like a week. The first night I had a dream of me actually being with a bunch of like Polynesian ancestors and getting my whole body tattooed. And I couldn't do anything and they're all holding me down. And I'm like, yo, I couldn't even handle this on my back. I could only imagine how it would feel getting it everywhere else. And the second dream, it was literally like, I thought about it. Like I'm a person of color, so I see like how slavery had impacted so many people and the actual things that they use as forms of discipline on people of color back in the day, like whipping and chaining and all that stuff. I'm like, I couldn't even handle 4 hours of getting my back tapped like that. Imagine getting whipped against a tree. Like, that's crazy.
Which brings me to my next question. Would your most meaningful, would it be the back still? Or the 7/7?
To be honest, I think all my tattoos are meaningful to me because they represent different facets of me. Like, it's weird. It's like if someone were to say to you, which part of your body would you sacrifice? Your eyes, your arms, your legs. Like, which part of you would you live without? It's like, what? Like, it's all of me. It's like, I think like every little memorabilia that lies within my tattoo represents a different facet of like my character. So it's like when I look at them, like this one, for example, I got this one from like an ex. I got this one from an ex. So it's like, I think about it, it's funny because in that relationship, I always felt like, okay, like I could heal him. I could make him better. And the same way my hand has the capacity to touch somebody is the same way it could also receive pain. And it was funny because he was the one that did this. So it was like that karmic reflection of as much as I give is also as much as I get back. Or like the idea of like pain and pleasure coexist together and walk hand in hand with one another. It's like love and hate walk a fine line. So it's like a duality thing with me. Because I felt like, it's like when I look at it, I think about it like, okay, like he hurt me in order to put this into my skin, but I have something beautiful to show after it. And it's like, well, that's how my experiences are with me. Or like when I got this one, it was like, well, after a breakup. So it was like, I have this and I have my vine. So I think about it like I always want to grow and I always want to flourish like greenery. But then you have your scissors and you just cut the parts off that you don't want, the parts that you don't need. And I feel like that's like a mantra for me. You know what I mean? Like keeping the stuff that you need and only keeping that. And the stuff that's bringing you down, just snip it off.
I might get a scissor tattoo.
Yeah. Like this is like the stuff that I like, you know, I like cowrie shells. And like African traditions, they use it as forms of divination
Is
to talk.
Is it formed in a bird? I see wings and stuff.
It's a crane.
Oh. You have any crazy stories as a tattoo artist? Like,
which one do you want?
Have you ever had a customer like stalk you or whatnot?
Okay, so with a customer stalking me, I had a client that would come regularly, maybe like every 3 or 4 weeks, just to get a tattoo from me. Like
he's covered up.
Yeah, but he just wanted to get tattooed by me. Like it was kind of like this weird thing where I could tell that he wasn't really seeking my art. It was more like he was just wanted to be touched by me. So he made the excuse of booking appointments so that he could be with me and sit with sessions with me, and he would come regularly. And it wasn't until one day I had my boyfriend at the time come to the shop to pick me up that he actually flipped the script and was like, I hate my tattoo and this and that. I'm like, I find it convenient how you decide to hate your tattoo the day that my boyfriend picks me up. Because you didn't know I had one before, but all of a sudden you want to create this whole narrative about me fucking up your tattoo because you saw that my boyfriend came to pick me up, which I thought was really funny. And I saw the reaction in his face. And he tried to make it seem like it wasn't that. And then he texted me 4 or 5 hours later saying, you know what, it's not bad. I'll get something. I'm like, no, like I already know like why you did that. Like you could literally see it on his face. So I just kind of like, you know, I had to tell everybody at the shop, like, don't let him back in here. If you see him, call the cops, because he started like antagonizing me and sending messages like, you know, like, oh, like, can you, no, you already made it clear that you do not like my work. And that only came after the fact that you saw that I was in a committed monogamous relationship. So keep that over there.
He paid for all of them, right?
Of course. He paid for all those tattoos. Like, but the thing was, it was just kind of like, you know, I get it. Like, it's an industry where you get intimate with people. You're literally like exchanging energy. So I felt like he thought that through that interaction that maybe me and him would develop a relationship. And once I showed him the reality of what was going on in my life, it kind of closed that out and diminished his expectations. So then he felt like projecting that through a manipulative tactic and targeting my work. And I'm not stupid. I read enough psychology books for that bullshit.
Have you ever had a client ask you why you weren't in a relationship?
A client? Yes. But I don't go out with clients. I always tell them that. Like, I've had clients while I'm tattooing them, like, legit ask me what I'm doing after. And they're like, you want to come to a party? You want to get a drink? I'm like, I don't date clients.
Why not?
Well, because...
If it's a cute guy or whatever.
Well, there's 3 reasons. Once you cross that line between client and tattooer, what ends up happening is now you've already mixed business with pleasure. And your life will get more chaotic because of it. 2, if I start dating one of my clients, let's say they get jealous because I'm around other clients, they're gonna think that if she opened up to me, what makes her think that she won't open up to all these other people that like her too? And I don't need that kind of paranoia in my life or jealousy. Because it just makes sense. And also, it's just one of those things where tattooing is my escape and it's my self-fulfillment. So I already, have that bubble of, introspection when I can escape my mind and just invest myself into creativity. Why would I want to mess that up by involving another person into it and making it messy? That's just me. Yeah.
We got a 5-minute break.
Good.
I asked you about the stalker. Has anything like crazy ever happened with you with a client or a coworker who has a nasty comment?
I got you. So this was back in like 2018 or 19, I believe. Once a week. I was like working in the Bronx at a tattoo shop, and that was when I was still apprenticing. I had a mentor that she had a client, and it's funny because at that time I didn't have any appointments that day. I was a little bit disappointed because I had a cancellation, so I was just kind of like drawing around the shop and stuff. And I just see this big ass brolic dude come into the shop, and he looks intimidating as fuck. And he's like, "Where's Stephanie?" And I'm like, Stephanie's my mentor, so she was in the back room or whatever. He's like, "Go get her." And I'm like, okay. And I go to the back and I'm like, "Stephanie, there's some big ass dude like looking for you." And she was like, "Oh, I know who he is." She comes to the front and I'm just like, she's talking to him, and he's all of a sudden when I come back, I see him with this shorter, timid woman standing next to him, and he's like, "Yeah, she wants to get a tattoo." And I'm like, why is this fool like talking for her? And she's just like looking all scared around the shop, and he's like, "Yeah, tell her what you want." And then she was just like not really trying to talk. And then Stephanie was just like, "What does she want?" And then he decides to talk for her. So she goes and says, he goes and says, "She wants I love punch this big from here to here." And I'm looking at her like she's not saying no to this. She's just quiet in the corner, like looking at the floor. And I'm like, okay. And then Stephanie's like, "Yeah, okay." They take her into the back. 3 weeks later, same chick that just got I love punch mad big like this. He comes back with her. And he's like, "All right, Stephanie, I want you to do I love punch 5 times on one butt cheek." And she was like, "Okay." And then she sets up the room and stuff. And I'm like, she already got I love punch this big going down like here. And then I go to the room because I'm just really curious to see if she's actually going to do this shit. And I just see her print out like 5 stencils that says I love punch. And she's just putting these, not even straight like this, just like all over her ass. And I'm just kind of like, yo, she's really gonna do this shit. And then the whole time she's getting tattooed, the girl is just like in pain, crying. And then this guy is with a tissue box like, "Stop crying." And like he's pulling out tissues, passing it to her. And I'm like, yo, this shit is fucking like abusive as fuck. So at some point I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And then like, I was just asking Steph, I was like, what is this? And she was like, if she doesn't say no, I can't really do nothing about it. She's in control of her body. If she didn't want to stay for the tattoo, she could physically leave. And I just said, yo, this is like some really like abusive relationship.
Nothing ever personally went true with a client that you know?
I had one client ask me over the phone if they could come in and get their penis tattooed.
Oh.
And they wanted to get like the Bitcoin symbol. You know the Bitcoin thing? Like that dollar sign B bullshit.
Okay.
He wanted like the print, like all over, like 360 all around the shaft. Yeah. And I was talking to him on the phone, and he was really serious about it. And he was literally like asking me like, you know, like how would that heal? What's the healing process for it? And then it was just kind of like him also, I felt like I had to ask these questions. I'm like, do you just want the shaft? Or do you also want like the head too with like this print? And he's like, all of it. So I'm just kind of like, you know, I just agreed to do it. And I was really hype about it. But this is the crazy part. Like I just started asking everyone in the shop because I never tattooed a penis before. So I'm asking like this girl, Carmen, that was working at the shop. She's like, yo, you just gotta bend it a certain way and you'll be fine. I'm like, but does his dick have to be hard when I do it? And then she was just like, nah, like you just gotta like bend it a certain way and stretch the skin so that it doesn't like look jacked up the lines. And I was literally, I felt like I was like training to do this. And
this was the shop you're in now, or
no? This was like a shop that I was working at like 2 years ago.
Okay.
But come to find out, he never came. But I set up for the appointment. I set up for the appointment, and I was trying to find like information on it because I never tattooed a penis. So I was a little disappointed because I thought that was gonna be like my, you know, my little exercise for that.
Pop your cherry.
Pop my little penis cherry. You know what I mean? And another situation that I had was I had a client try to scam me. So this one was really interesting. So I was working at a tattoo shop in Brooklyn, and it was called Nice Tattoo Parlor. That name kind of shot me in the foot a little bit because no matter what, like even if we were justified, we had to be considerate of the clients. So clients could literally tell us straight up and down, like, this is what I want. If you don't give me this, you guys aren't a nice, reputable company, and this, and that. So it kind of obligated us to kind of bend over backwards for clients, even if they were completely irrational. So there was like this situation pertaining to a client. He asked me to do a specific design. He wanted an outline of these eyes, and it was like a simple line drawing. It was really basic. It was like these diamond shapes with a dot inside. It was like eye shapes all over his arm. He says, I just want this. And, you know, we discussed price and all that. I did it. After I finished, he looked in the mirror. He's like, I love it. I love it. It looks so good. He was showing it to everyone.
Where did he get it?
On his arm, like right here. He was like, I love it. I love it. It's like one of my favorite tattoos and stuff. He paid. He got out. Why 2 days later, the manager gets an email saying from him that he hates his tattoo, that he wants his money back, that he's completely disappointed that the work was unsatisfactory and unprofessional. And then he says that the reason why the tattoo was not to his satisfactory was because I did not do what I was instructed. And he said that I did not want an outline of these eyes. I wanted an outline of an outline. Meaning that he wanted me to double line the shape. Yeah, like he wanted me to double shape the actual outline shape. He didn't want me to do a solid line of diamond. He wanted me to double line to make the shape and not fill it in. So as confusing as that was, I was like calling his bluff automatically because I said, if that was the case, why would you pay us? Why would you give me a $60 tip? And why would you tell everyone in the shop that you loved it shortly after getting it if it was really that inadequate?
How does that work? How does that work in tattoo shops? Like, if they want a refund, they don't like the. Do y'all give refunds? I never.
It depends on the shop.
Okay.
So that's why I said that the shop that I worked at, the name shot us in the foot a little bit because we're nice. So it's like if I'm nice, then I should be nice enough to give you a refund. But at some point, it's like you start looking at like the manipulation of it just being, you just want your money back. I'm never gonna get that time back that I just invested in your tattoo. Why do you think that it's any different? And that's why sometimes I get a little bit kind of like annoyed with certain people because they'll be like, oh, that's a little too expensive or whatever. Let me tell you something. People on average spend about $250 on Jordans. Jordans that are gonna get covered in dog shit if you step into one day, dirt, all these kind of different things. And I'm putting something on you permanently that you're gonna have till the day that you die and you're complaining about $250. But you're not complaining about shoes that at most might last you a year or two if you take care of them well. That's just how I feel.
What's your minimum?
My minimum is 200. And honestly, I think that that's not bad for like something that I'm doing permanently on you. It's like when you think about it, people spend money on such temporary things. Do you know how on average people spend like what's it called? Botox in your face that lasts only about 6 months costs $200. Jordans that last you about 2 years cost $250. most
out to the
Balenciaga, like a Louis Vuitton wallet, like even your Metro card, your phone bill, all these things, like they are things that you use on a daily. So we don't normally add that much, I guess, like luxury to it in our mind. Like on average, I probably spend like what, $133 a month on Metro card.
But is your minimum of 200? How small can the tap? What's the biggest it could be for 200?
I mean, it depends on the amount of work. That's the thing. Like 200 is a minimum, meaning that it's not gonna go anything below that. So if you come to me, you said you want a dot, just because you want a dot and you want, if you just want a dot, that's the minimum.
For that, you could go to a regular shop around your neighborhood for $60 or something.
But you can do that if you want to.
Okay.
And if you want to get hepatitis B, you can do that if you want to. If you want to get a fucking staph infection, you can do that if you want to, because this is America. You can do whatever you want, apparently, as long as it doesn't come across the government in any kind of way, because you know how they feel about that shit. But anyways, like, you can do whatever you want. My minimum is to guarantee my job security, because at the end of the day, I got to make sure I get my bread and butter too. Whether I do a tattoo or not, that's why deposits are also non-refundable.
But even for a walk-in, it's 200. A minimum.
Minimum. That's just how it is. It's basically like the way that tattooing works. Is like, okay, you know how regular jobs you get a promotion. Let's say you went from making $10 an hour to now you're making $15. That's how you develop your ranking. When you have more credibility as an artist, and you're developing your portfolio, you're allowed to raise your minimum because now your worth is developing with the criteria of work that you're providing. The idea is to go high, not to go low. But when I say high, I mean moderately as your work expands and meets those price ranges. So it's like you give yourself your own self-promotion with more of the time that you invest, more of the wisdom that you cultivate from being an artist, and as your work develops.
What about if it's a personal friend of yours? Do you give them a nice discount?
Let me tell you something. If they were a friend of mine, they'd support me because I would support them full price.
Fine, but what about those tattoo shops that charge $60 for a little dog?
Do you know why they do that? Because their equipment and the stuff that they buy is cheap. The needles on average that I buy cost $36 to $45 a box, Black Claw brand. The needles that most of those shops use are from Chinatown, or like those cheap Amazon brands that literally each needle's like 25 cents a pop, and they're dull and they hurt more, and the tattoo takes longer because they're not really good quality.
If it's a cheap needle, it'll hurt more?
Yeah, because it's not fine, it's not sharp. The other types of brands that are higher quality, that are like $35 or $45 a box, are almost like surgical like quality. They literally cut through your skin like butter. The other ones, they'll be so dull, you're literally tearing someone's skin apart, and when it heals, you can feel the tattoo when you graze your finger.
I thought that was regular tattooing. What was it say?
There's a difference between being surgical and adding more trauma. So the duller the needle, the more likely the skin is gonna keloid and it's gonna be thicker, and you can actually feel your tattoo like Braille. The more surgical and fine and sharp a needle is, the more likely the tattoo will heal smooth.
Like it's
gonna be smooth. It's gonna literally heal like it's a part of you. There's not gonna be any texture when you rub your hand or arm against it.
Hence, gel tattoo.
Gel tattoos, that's the thing. And the only reason why some gel tattoos look good is because of the technique that they use in order to do it. They use sewing needles to actually use to create most of the designs in gel. And the actual type of tattooing they do is like that fine line, kind of black and gray shading. So it doesn't cause that much trauma to the skin. But if they were to use like a bigger needle grouping, like a size 5 or a size 7, they're actually causing more trauma to the skin because the machinery that they're using is not tattoo machines in gel. They're getting an 8-track, or they're getting like a CD player, and they're adding like their own bullshit and adding a needle to it, and it hits different. They're creating their own little power strip for it. It's a whole completely different ballgame with gel tattooing, with in-home tattooing, and with shop tattooing. It depends on the quality of work that you want. Do you want Gucci, or do you want, you know what I mean? Like, do you want like some Fordham bullshit? Like, you want Android, you want iPhone? What you want? You want Chick-fil-A, or you want McDonald's? There's quality, and you pay for what you get.
Wait, Android and iPhone and Android are two amazing products.
I mean, they're two amazing products, but I mean, I know that my phone, when I take a picture on an iPhone, it gonna look like my face.
Wow.
If I take a picture on an Android, my shit gonna look like boxes. I'm gonna look like a Roblox.
I've heard tattooing is really bad on for the tattoo. It's really bad on
For your
body.
back.
Yeah, your back. Like.
I got you right now.
Yo.
This be cracking.
I can't do that.
But yeah, that's another thing. You also gotta take care of yourself when you're a tattooer. That's chiropractic appointments, that's doing yoga, that's stretching. Because if not, we're gonna be sitting like this.
Have your parents ever wanted tattoos done by you?
Yeah, my mom, she was down to get some tattoos with me and my sisters. My dad, he's kind of like anti-tattoo. Like he's never really even been into the idea of tattoos. He's so like Catholic, which is kind of crazy to me because it's like, how are you Catholic but you do most of the things that you do? He ain't no saint. But like it's crazy. Like even when I got my neck tattooed, he's like, why did you do that? When he learned about my first tattoo, he was like, oh my god, you're worth nothing now. Like it was weird because it was kind of like, I felt like my mom was a little bit more open to it. My dad was very like heavily like, you're going against God's will, marking your body. And you know, I felt like either way, like I'm not like remorseful at all of any of my decisions because I feel like my decisions made me who I am. And I have no apologies for that. But yeah. Literally though. I love tattoos, man.
Could we call? Ready? Okay, so we're going to start a very fun game called Pedro's Tattoo Trivia. And our lovely producer is gonna tell us questions.
Refill.
And we gotta
Refill for this game.
say the right answers. Whoever gets it wrong gotta take a sip. Let's pour her a drink first. Finally, her second round.
We gotta fill up the tank for this game. Okay.
And yeah, welcome to Pedro's Trivia Tattoo.
Cheers. Okay.
Whenever you guys are ready.
A tattoo is an image that has been deposited in the skins. A. Dermis. B. Epidermis. C. Subcutaneous tissue.
B. Epidermis.
I'm gonna say B too.
Copycat. It's dermis.
You're a tattoo artist. How you didn't know this?
I say epidermis.
What's the answer?
A.
Dermis. Well, I say epidermis because I see the layers in the skin, but
So
that's
we
if you get
both
to the
gotta
whole
take.
science.
Right, since we both got our answers wrong, we both gotta take a sip out of it.
Copy.
The design of the modern tattoo machine comes from an A. Engraving tool. B. A sewing machine. C. A dental drill.
What's A?
An engraving tool.
I'm gonna go with A.
What was B?
A sewing machine.
It's definitely not B. It's definitely C. It was a dental.
A dental drill.
I feel like it's B, but
Not a sewing machine. Don't. Oh.
Would you like the answer?
Yeah.
The answer is A. You're correct, Pedro.
I got it right. You got
I feel like it's a sewing machine when I think about it. Because whenever I explain it to people, like tattooing, it just looks like a sewing machine to me. But
Take a sip of your wine.
Next question. Tattoo artists have to be careful about sterilizing their equipment. Excuse me. Let's start over. Oh, I lost the question. Okay. Tattoo artists have to be careful about sterilizing their equipment because A. Each time the needle pierces the skin, it creates a puncture wound. B. diseases can spread through unsterilized tattoo equipment. Or C, both A and B.
See.
What was A?
Each time the needle pierces the skin, it creates a puncture wound.
I'm gonna go with B because it's not both A and B. I'm gonna go with B.
I'm gonna go with C.
C is the correct.
What?
I'm still drinking even without getting this.
I know what the
I'm
point
already
of this
getting
game,
lit.
yo.
To be honest, I'm getting lit already.
Tattoo artists sterilize their equipment in A sink, B, a dishwasher,
I'm not a tattoo.
C, an autoclave.
It's C since you
It's C.
started on that. C. You started on
C is
You're
autoclave. It's like the sterilization process of the heat on the actual stuff kills the bacteria. But that's for like reusable tubes and stuff. But I don't know. The funny thing is that whenever like I teach anyone about tattooing, I always use the sewing machine analogy. So my brain automatically thinks it's a sewing machine. And I just use epidermis because whenever they showed us that in like, what's it called? The licensing place, the mental hygiene place, they showed us 3 layers of skin and they showed all 3 parts and how they get impacted by the needle going in and also like what happens when you laser. So I see like the different layers. So I just kind of said epidermis.
Okay, that was an interesting trivia game. I wish it could have gone better.
My apology, guys. I would have answered those questions a little bit better if we didn't have these drinks. I'm not a drinker.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Shout out to Solus Studios.
They're out here, rent space. You do your little photo shoot here. You want to get popping and stuff, just hit them up. Solus Studios around 24th Street, 23rd. I'm not exactly sure, but it's around Gramercy. Hit them up.
SOLAS space STUDIO.
Look at you spelling. Hit them up.
Solus Studio.
Follow me on Instagram, Bruja Delbloque, all one word, no space, no nothing. And yeah,
Thank you guys so much for watching.
stay tatted.
Stay excited.